Part 4. New Explorer Corps, First Arm, Spinward Operations Area, 2 jumps outside the Antallos system. November 17th, 3151. Captain Rin sat in the command chair in the bridge of the Rabbit's Foot, a 245,000-ton Chimishu-class jumpship looking out at the stars through the bank of thick glass panels of the bridge's far wall. Her crew busied themselves with all of the typical maintenance duties following their double jump away from the Antallos system. It drained the ship's batteries, but after the attack at the Antallos jump point, Rin wanted to put as much space between them and any of the pirates' friends as possible. They had just barely started this journey, and already Rin felt weighed down by the consequences of seemingly routine decisions. A tech who went by the name Tyson was killed in the boarding action with the pirates before Vasil arrived and triggered an instantaneous surrender. As the weapons of the pirates clattered to the floor, Rin pulled at Tyson's jumpsuit, trying to pull him out of the line of fire. However, at that point he was already limp, with eyes staring motionless. As Vasil, Levitt, and the others stuffed the disarmed pirates back into their craft and cut it loose after disabling their propulsion systems, Rin continued to hold Tyson. The tapping of Levitt's fingers on the holovid table pulled Rin's attention and broke the gilt-tinted haze for the moment. He smiled, seemingly always able to generate one, even in the toughest of times. "Heavy weighs the crown, Captain?" Levitt asked in his usual jovial tone. "Something like that. I assume the scanners are clear," Rin replied. "Not a peep. If the pirates had buddies, they'd have less than an 18% chance of stumbling upon us 2 jumps away, so that was a good call," Levitt said as he tapped the table again. Rin looked out back at the stars. After a few moments, she responded, "I'll feel better after a few more jumps." Down in the rather spacious recreation room of the jump ship, the 4 Mechwarriors and 2 aerospace pilots sat around the meeting table playing cards and talking. Ever since the ship jumped out of the Antallos system, the primary topic had been Vasil joining the expedition. "I don't know. It's all a bit risky to house a Jade Falcon, isn't it? What if he goes all Malvina on us?" Akif said, tossing down a busted set of cards. Tenica furrowed her brow and leaned forward. "They're not all like her. In fact, there's a significant number that resisted her every step of the way. Vasil saved lives the other day. Don't forget. Have any of you served with a clanner before? I don't want to end up in some sort of honor duel because I bumped into him in the hallway," May said, tugging at her black braided hair out of a nervous habit. "I would actually love to see you take on an elemental in that commando," Olivia said with a chuckle, and at the same time tossing down her winning hand, claiming the pile of multicolored aluminum chips. "What would the odds be on that?" Akif asked with a chuckle. Just then, Kip and Ariana walked in, grabbing a couple of seats in recliner chairs near the table. "I think if you spend some time with him, you'll see that he isn't what we've been shown in the propaganda," Tenica said, dealing out the next hand. "That's trash. The second he can, that clanner will gut the captain and claim the ship as his. Just you wait," Kip said with a snarl. Ariana put her hand on his forearm, but he pulled it away. "Nah, don't sugarcoat it. We're all just supposed to ignore the fact that the Falcons murdered their way across the inner sphere? How do you get past that?" Tenica stopped dealing and looked over at Kip before flatly stating, "You will get past it because that's the job. If the captain says Vasil is part of the mission, he's part of the mission. If you have a problem with it, go get in your stingray and piss off." "We're just worried about it," Ariana said, trying to temper her father's remarks. "I'm not worried. I'm just aware," Kip said with a slightly cooler tone. New Explorer Corps, First Arm, Spinward Operations Area, 2 jumps outside the Antallos system, November 20th, 3151. Walking the ship as he usually did before a jump, Levitt scanned the bulkhead for stress fractures and any other anomaly. When he walked by cargo bay number 2, he heard the rhythmic sounds of boots running on the decking. Inside, Levitt stopped to watch as Vasil ran in a loop around the open space between the crates and barrels of expedition supplies. Being quite cramped for space already, there wasn't really a cabin for him, but Vasil said that he was fine with bunking in the cargo bay. Rin had briefly thought about asking Tyson's bunkmate if it would be okay if the elemental moved in, but the issue was tense and Tyson's friends were still grieving. The last thing they needed was a new roomie in the technician area. Additionally, Rin was concerned that the clan warrior might not appreciate being asked to live with technicians. When Vasil spotted Levitt, he stopped running and walked over. Towering over your standard human didn't faze the elemental, but Levitt was still trying to get used to having to look up to meet the clanner's gaze with his own. "How you settling in?" Levitt asked. "The accommodations will serve well. I am comfortable, though we really should sit down to review the ship's defense plans should another pirate incursion occur. Defense teams with stashed weapons could allow for faster response to threats," Vasil said in his usual even tone, even though he had just been exercising moments before. Levitt nodded. "We should find some time after the jump." Levitt paused for a moment before adding, "I want to thank you for what you did, helping the captain out, helping the crew." "Thanks are not necessary. I was doing my duty as any warrior should," Vasil said, crossing his arms over his chest. The two looked at each other for a moment before Vasil asked, "Are you and the captain in a pair bond?" Levitt looked confused for a moment before realizing what Vasil meant. He stammered, "Oh, no, definitely not. It's more like a big brother protecting a sister thing. I've known Rin for most of my life. We just look out for each other. It's not anything like that." Vasil nodded, seeming to understand. "It is often the case in the Sibco that bonding would remain throughout careers. Warriors looking out for each other. That is a noble and honorable thing. Credit to you, Lieutenant Levitt." The wall speakers across the ship beeped on, and Rin's voice carried across the rabbit's foot. "Jump in 10 minutes. Lieutenant Levitt, if you're done with your stroll, we could use you up in the bridge." "Duty calls," Levitt said. Vasil nodded and gave the lieutenant a Jade Falcon salute. Levitt returned his own and headed out of the cargo bay. New Explorer Corps, First Arm, Spinward Operations Area, 3 jumps outside of the Antallos system. November 20th, 3151. Rin took a moment to let her stomach settle before asking for the all clear. After so many years of jumping, she'd like to believe it got easier. However, there was always a little bit of an adjustment period after jumping 30 light years through space. It's like the body needed a few moments to figure out where it was in the astral plane of existence. "Are we clear? Let's get sensors up fast. I want to know if we have any neighbors in the system," Rin said after restraining the reflux. "We're clear. Initial sweeps show a clear jump point. Longer range scans ongoing," the comms officer belted out with trained brevity. Rin walked over to the holotable and marked their system. Some existing details popped up from the hard drives she had inherited from her grandfather's estate. The Comstar logo rotated slowly, and for a moment she wondered if this feeling of excitement is the same that the original Explorer Corps felt when heading out into new territory. Her eyes scanned the info, and when she saw it, Rin looked over at Levitt just as the comms officer said, "We have a live HPG connection. Data transfer is commencing." "It's on the moon of the second planet, away from the star, but the report from 3058 says the site was abandoned and the HPG generator was inactive," Rin said as she scanned the old Comstar documents for details. Levitt shrugged and said, "A lot can change in almost a century." Rin walked over to the helm and grabbed her tablet. Sure enough, it was downloading all of the messages that had piled up since the last time they were in an HPG-enabled system. Among the various messages from vendors, some personal items, and most notably a couple of messages that she really didn't want to see. One of them was from her Combine handler, and the other was from the science-cased representative of Clan Wolf. Captain Rin Barrett, New Explorer Corps, November 8th, 3151. Captain, when you receive this, we require a status update with all of your scientific data produced so far. Additionally, we would like your estimates concerning progress and discoveries of economic or industrial worth. Future financial support depends upon your ability to produce results that are deemed satisfactory. Response is expected at your earliest possible opportunity when you next establish HPG contact. Respectfully, Mio Sato, Deputy, Bureau of Interstellar Trade, Draconis Combine. Rin sighed deeply, closing the message and moving on to the next. Captain Rin Barrett, New Explorer Corps, November 8th, 3151. Captain Rin, as per our previous conversations, we expect an update at the earliest possible contact. Priorities include, but are not exclusive to, any Star League-era artifacts, technology, material goods, or information generated as a result of contact with legacy data storage devices. Any contact with Clan Seafox or Clan Snowraven should be avoided if possible. Log and report any incidental contacts or observation of clan forces in your region. If contacted, do not share your connections with the ill clan. This is for your own safety and for our operational security. Scientific data should be transmitted as a secondary consideration to the above. Mission logs, including location data, should be encrypted using the key provided during the August meeting with Scientist Case member Siobhan. Star Captain Randall, 54th Garrison Cluster, Upsilon Galaxy, Ill Clan Wolf. Rin sat there for a few moments before closing the second message. I want scans on that HPG moon as soon as possible. Put the Holtz on alert just in case they're sending something our way. Are you okay? Levitt asked, seeing the worn down look on Rin's face. Of course. Let's get to work, Rin responded. End Part 4. As always, thanks for listening to the latest part in this new Explorer Core series. Today's part was really intended to flesh out some of the characters only briefly mentioned in previous parts, and set up for some exciting stuff in the future. I hope you can come back and find out what happens later this week. Big thanks to the Ko-Fi supporters who are helping keep the nonsense tap flowing. Take care, and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.